Well, welcome to this, the fifth and final topic, the sixth video in this series, just revising some of the topics in Jekyll and Hyde. Hope you found it really useful to do this after we finish reading the novel. We're going to look today at this idea of the Gothic genre. So Jekyll and Hyde is a Victorian novel. It's part of the 19th century group of texts that the exam board have asked us to pick from. We've chosen this one, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's a very good book. I hope you've enjoyed studying it. But this idea of it being part of a wider sort of genre of Gothic literature is really important, and we're just going to have a little think about this today. We've done all of these videos at themes, structure and narrative, setting and symbolism, language and dialogue, and as I said to you right at the start, all these things sort of tie into each other. So it's good, it's useful, because I've been able to, and you've been able to, consolidate your knowledge from lots and lots of different things. We see the theme of secrecy overlapping with the mystery, overlapping with the language and dialogue. The symbolism is going to come up again today in terms of the Gothic genre, and that ties in with the themes of science and religion too. So we've got lots and lots of different overlapping concepts here that will help you to consolidate your learning. What I would encourage you to do is I would encourage you over half term maybe to think about perhaps 5 or 6 quotations that you could learn by heart. It doesn't have to be full paragraphs or lengths and lengths of text. It can be simple quotations that you think keep coming up again and again in these videos. And actually that's a good thing, because it means it links together lots of different ideas, and so you don't have to do as much work. The quotation works for you. I want you to just think about how many you can remember, and get back to me after half term with a few of those ideas. On to the topic today then, the Gothic genre. It's a really important one especially if you're looking to get high marks in this module. If you're one of those people that are predicted an 8 or a 9, talking about where this novel sits alongside other texts and the tradition of the Gothic genre, the typical features, and then even going a step further and being able to evaluate whether you think Jekyll and Hyde is a traditional Gothic text, or whether you think it's a special Gothic text. That's sort of the next step up to that, and I would encourage you to have a little think, because these things are actually quite easy to think about, but it's not going to ask you in the exam how far do you agree that Jekyll and Hyde is a Gothic novel. You've got to try and build in your awareness of where this book sits alongside other texts, some of which we've actually looked at, and we'll get to that at the end of this video. So let's start the lesson today. Firstly then, what are the features of Gothic texts? What do they usually contain? So a mysterious setting would be the first one, maybe a haunted house or something mysterious that isn't quite what it seems at the start. Something that involves disturbing secrets. Perhaps it's somebody's past, perhaps there's something lurking there that gets discovered during the narrative. That is usually part of a Gothic text. Dreams and visions, people being haunted by visions of the past, or maybe visions of this next idea, the supernatural, because that's a key that is a key Gothic feature. Think about Dracula, think about Frankenstein. They're all thinking about the supernatural, the idea of an otherworldliness, something that is like a little bit less than human, maybe something that is linked to death as well. And finally, you wouldn't really expect to see this, but again and again you see a recurring idea of the double, an idea that there is a double identity somehow, or that two characters are paired in quite a strange way. And we'll think about that more at the end of this video. Let's go through each of these and find out a little bit more about them in relation to the text we've studied. So the first one then, the mysterious setting. Stevenson's description of the dark, deserted London streets is very mysterious. A nice quotation to learn here, the fogged city moon. And we thought about how that is concealing things and building the suspense throughout the novel. And don't forget about the objects too in Jekyll's laboratory. We could also think about the objects in Hyde's little Soho house, the cane, the checkbook. We can also think about all the different cheval glass in the laboratory, and we've looked at the symbolism in previous videos on these things, all build to this mysterious setting of the text. There are disturbing secrets in this book. Jekyll's secret alter ego is obviously one, and Hyde's secret activities throughout the book is the next thing. The fact that Jekyll sometimes disappears, as he did in chapter 7, thrust down the window. This sort of all links this idea of secrets that are quite disturbing. Utterson is sort of a bit fearful of blackmail. He feels like Jekyll might be paying through the nose for some of the capers of his youth. So Hyde, before he knows that Jekyll and Hyde are the same person, he thinks that Hyde is blackmailing Jekyll for something that he did when he was younger, something sinful, something shameful. And this is this idea of blackmail, your secrets coming back to sort of pay you back, and somebody using those against you. This is a key idea and links to the idea of secrets in the novel. Now, Utterson has a vivid dream towards the start of this novel. It's before he meets Hyde. He has this terrifying vision that he is haunted by a faceless figure. This is a key quotation to learn. The figure haunted the lawyer all night. Now, he's in his dreams. It's not clear whether it's just a nightmare or whether a ghost does come and haunt him. I would say it's more a dream at this point, and we'll hold on with the ghostly stuff for now because it's not really that kind of, it's not a ghost story, is it, this book? But the idea of a haunting links to that Gothic genre text as well. And basically his dream is a mixture of Enfield's story of the trampling of the young girl, but it's also bringing Utterson's fears and anxieties out into the open. We've got this key principle of the supernatural, which is very symbolic here and very significant. Jekyll's scientific experiments are mystic and transcendental, the idea that they somehow pass from this life into the next. The transcendental meaning to transcend humanity. So his experiments kind of seem to be working outside of the bounds of the laws of physics, for example. Lanyon's account of Hyde's transformation seems impossible. He describes it in a way to make Hyde seem like he isn't part of this world. He says his features seem to melt and alter as he turns into Jekyll. Again, underlying this point, reinforcing this point that Hyde is not of this world. He is somehow been created in a supernatural way. Finally then, perhaps the most mysterious of these features, the idea of a twin, a double, the idea of duality, which we've touched on many times before. And obviously the whole novel rests on this idea of man's double nature. It's at the heart of this novel. There's obviously Jekyll's second self, and this is obvious. This is the concrete other person, his alter ego, that he creates to be his mask, to be his protector. But they also have other characters and settings which have two sides also. Enfield is up to no good in the middle of the night, sneaking round strange parts of the city. There's Jekyll's house that has two sides too. This idea of a double, I asked you to look into, if you can remember right back to the start of this module, when you had a look at some of these texts, you had a look at the first one there on the left. You can just see in the middle of that book cover, the two figures in their masks, and this is the short story by Edgar Allan Poe, William Wilson, these two twins. It's like a cloning experiment. Next, we've got Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and this one is also discussed in reference to double, a duality even, because Frankenstein, when he creates life, it's almost like he's created all the bad aspects of himself, and then he's turned his back on that creature and run away from it. I also asked you to have a look at the portrait of the picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This story about the young, respectable, but also quite scandalous young man, Dorian Gray, and he discovers that the portrait he has painted of himself takes the flack, takes the scars for his own sinful acts. And so whilst Dorian Gray stays young and beautiful, the portrait is decaying in the attic. We've also got this idea of the man with the twisted lip, a short story by Arthur Conan Doyle. It's a Sherlock Holmes tale, and it's a respectable gentleman who finds that he can have a much more relaxing and rewarding life as a beggar, Hugh Boone, begging on the streets. All of these texts, although I wouldn't say the final one is really a true Gothic story, it's more like a detective story, isn't it? But the first three certainly fall into this category of Victorian Gothic, and so does Jekyll and Hyde. It's very important that you learn this sort of thing, and you can discuss this text in your exam in reference to other texts as well. That's quite an impressive thing to do. So why is all of this important? Why has Stevenson chosen to set this text as a Gothic text? Remember, he wrote Treasure Island, a sort of a semi-children's book. Why would he just switch over to this? Well, I'm not sure, but the Gothic novel was very popular in the late Victorian period, and traditionally Gothic novels were set in haunted buildings or abandoned castles in faraway places like medieval Europe. So highlighted on the map there is the country Romania. And if we are thinking about the novel Dracula, this happens in that country. I think Transylvania is in Romania. And it's like far away place, far away, which is terrifying, but it's not as terrifying as having your baddie character, your worst nightmare, in London itself. So Jekyll and Hyde takes place in Victorian London, and even though he's a wicked character and he's a terrible character, and this is scary enough, what makes it even more scary is that the wicked character is actually part of a respectable gentleman. And these changes that Stevenson made ensured that his Gothic novel was frightening for Victorian readers. Stories that are openly about evil people in faraway places are easy to dismiss. They're just far away, it's never going to affect me. But the plot of Jekyll and Hyde is different. It's strange because you can't really believe the story of it, but these horrible deeds committed by apparently civilized people made the story even more terrifying. So we've got to the end of our little mini series. I hope you found the videos useful, and I hope it's enabled you to revise this book. This is the final thing that we're going to do as part of our distance learning on this novel. But if you do need to ask any questions over half term, please do drop me an email. I'm not going to switch off too much. I would just say, think about those quotations that you can remember. Looking across all the different pictures on the screen there, you should be able to tell me something about each of these little things. And just recap, revise your notes, but try to pinpoint 5 or 6 quotations that you could use to represent something that's going on in each of these things. Okay, thank you.